When I was growing up, my parents had a small holding. And on the small holding, they had a couple of animals that were made really unlikely friends. In addition to a German Shepherd dog called Rolf and a stray cat called Stinker, they had a nanny goat and a gander. And these two became absolutely inseparable. One summer, when Mum and Dad decided to go on holiday, they left me in charge of the house and the small holding and the animals, which meant I had the job of milking the goat every morning. Now, to do this, the first thing I had to do was to distract the gander so that he wouldn't attack me whilst I was milking the goat, keep him out of the way. The second thing I had to do was entice the goat into the milking pen so that she wouldn't kick the bucket over or stand in it. And that's when I learnt my first example of defining your target audience. Before I could start the milking, I needed to use a particular product that had been designed for that particular purpose. I don't know if you can see that. Now, I don't know about you, but you may have seen a similar product in similar packaging, but called something like baby wipes, or screen wipes, or antiseptic wipes. But that morning, I'm just going to press start on there. That morning, I had a need to use that particular product. That morning, I was the target audience. There's a chap called Peter Drucker. Who's heard of Peter Drucker? A chap called Peter Drucker. He said about marketing that the aim of effective marketing is to know and understand your customer so well that your product fits him and sells itself. Now, each of us around the table, we spent our 40, I meant to say 40 seconds earlier. I said 40 I even amused myself. But each of us has got our own target area, the thing that we enjoy doing. I enjoy speaking to people. I enjoy helping people. I mentioned earlier, spent yesterday with an executive team. We had a great day together. We're all of us, whether it's Darren with his accountancy, whether it's Paul with his finances, whether it's Frank bringing weather over from South Africa. We've all got something that we're passionate about, something that we're prepared to invest in so that we're going to have a great performance. We've also probably got something that we've experienced some pain about too. It's probably something that we're prepared to practice and probably suits our personality. It'll be the outgoing people who do the outgoing stuff. It'll be the more reserved that do the more reserved stuff. And I'm not going to categorize anybody this morning. So what I'd like to ask you, has anybody come across a musical called Fiddler on the Roof? Yeah. And do you know any songs from Fiddler on the Roof? Yeah. Tradition, fantastic, I like it. Any others? If I Were a Rich Man. Now that is the song that I'm not going to be talking about this morning. The song I'm going to be talking about this morning actually it's called Matchmaker. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match, find me a find, catch me a catch. Who knows the song? Matchmaker, matchmaker, look through your book and make me a perfect match. So if you'd like to tuck into the after eight, we've got after eight. It's after 8. Yeah, you have to, don't you? You have to show willing. The story, who knows the story about Matchmaker? How's it go? It's about a chap called Tevye, the milkman.
Yeah, they have. Isn't it something to do with they're in a traditional? Are they Jewish?
They're a Jewish culture.
Jewish,
yeah.
So the only way they can get married is by the matchmaker fitting people together.
Exactly. It's in Tsarist Russia about 100 years ago, just over 100 years ago. And this chap Tevye and his wife Golda, they live in Tsarist Russia. They have their eldest daughter Tzeitel is looking to get married. So she has to approach the matchmaker who's going to make her a match. Now the matchmaker was just about to turn up, and he comes along and presents her husband-to-be, or tells her about her husband-to-be. And it turns out this gentleman is a lovely fellow, and he's just a little bit older than her dad. So Tzeitel isn't actually that impressed with this whole process, and she has this rather curious notion that she'd like to get married for love. I don't know, it'll never catch on. Seth Godin, you've also heard of Seth Godin. Seth Godin says to make a match between your product or service and your ideal customer, you need to understand how your customer wants to be helped. He says an interesting thing. He says, don't find customers for your products. Find products for your customers. You need to know and understand your customer so well that your product fits him and sells itself. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work through, if you'd like to hand that down that way, and that down that way, and I'll keep one for myself. We're going to work through a little worksheet called Defining Your Target Audience. So the first section, oh, your pens, if you've got a pen, that'll be handy. The first box, the top left of the sheet, you'll find there's a box that says your target audience. So who do you love working with? Client information. Here's a list of existing data we have available to us from our client. Who do you love working with? It's presumably going to be somebody that you know you can help. It's going to be somebody somebody you love working with. It's going to be somebody that you've got some kind of affinity with or association with. My background is in engineering and project management. I'm a member of the Institution of Electrical Engineers and of the Association for Project Management. Those are people that I have a natural affinity with, strangely. Having spent 15, 20 years in managing engineering projects, those are people I have a natural affinity with. It's probably somebody that you share some attributes with as well. I mean, electrician, your ideal customer is going to need some electrical work done. Inevitably, you've got something in common with them. It'll be something probably where you aspire to do better, something you're prepared to invest in, and you want to do a better job. So who do you love working with? So think of your existing clients. If you're fairly new, it's more of a challenge, but if you think of your existing clients, who do you love working with? If you could design your ideal client, who would you love working with?
Are we listing kind of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 down?
We're going to be going to 2 or 3 headings. Yeah, there's a number of headings we're going to put in here. So who do you love working with now?
And is that people, or can it be characteristics?
It can be typicals. We're going to end up with a kind of a picture of our ideal customers. So it's the people that you would really love to work with. I would love if Richard Branson came to me and said, I'd like you to be my leadership coach. Okay, it might not happen this week. I'll work towards it. So who would you love? Who would you love working with? It's going to be somebody you can help. It's going to be somebody that you've got this association with. Somebody you'd aspire to have on your books. Who would you love working with? Wouldn't it be great if I could get Richard Branson as my customer? Wouldn't it be great?
Person, this is it.
It can be a person. We're looking for a typical picture of a customer. So it could be a company. It could be that I'd love working with IBM. I don't know, some large multinational. It could be that I'd like to work with the chief executive of Barclays. Who would you really love to work with? Wouldn't it be great? Who's up here? Who's the person you'd aspire to work with? Then the next question is interesting. Who did you love working with in the past? So maybe you've had customers in the past and they've moved on, but they were an absolutely perfect client. They were the person you really loved. Somebody I was talking to recently said on this point, there was a customer that they worked really, really well together, but they didn't have enough marketing collateral out there. So what happened was this customer heard those whispering voices that say, oh, you should do this, oh, you should do that, or you should do the other. And he hadn't got enough marketing collateral in place. So his customer ended up listening to those voices and moved on to somewhere else. He's no longer able to catch them, get them back, but they were a fantastic customer. Who did you love working with in the past? And also, who did you not love working with? Who don't you want to work with again? My dad used to run a petrol station out in the middle of nowhere, and he did all sorts of mechanical maintenance and that kind of thing. And he said to me on a number of occasions, I'd have been better off giving that person a tenner and told them to clear off. Sometimes customers are better off with somebody else, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the key question, we've now got the key question in this section. What are their pains? If I've got a headache, I want a paracetamol now, don't I? I don't want a paracetamol tomorrow. I don't want to know that I could go out and buy one if I wanted to. I want one now. What are their pains? If I haven't got a paracetamol, if I haven't got a headache, I don't need a headache now. I don't need a paracetamol now, but I maybe need one in the future. I need to know where to get one. What are their pains? What's that thing that's going to drive them to want to come to take advantage of your services? It's a key question. When do they need a solution goes with that. They may not need a solution today. They may not need a solution tomorrow. But when they do need a solution, how will they know or remember to come back and contact you? Have we got a few ideas on our client information? Written a few down. The next section is objectives, and I quite like this one. Amongst you guys, who of you has ever been confronted with the question when you go around to meet the girlfriend's parents and dad says, "Now then, young man, what exactly are your intentions towards my daughter?" And who's ever answered honestly? So there's a lady who works at Mozilla, and she says something quite interesting. She said people these days are becoming increasingly intolerant to businesses without a purpose. I was doing one of these exercises, and one of the guys in the room, we came onto this exercise, and his purpose was, well, I want to make money. Who wants to go to a business that just wants to make money? We want to go to people who are passionate about what they do, they're effective in what they do, and it's the reason that they want to help people. There was a chap called Taiichi Ohno, and of course you all know Taiichi Ohno. He was the architect to the Japanese production system. He wrote a book about production in the post Second World War era, and he was one of those. There were half a dozen of these gurus, weren't there, post Second World War in the engineering sector, in the manufacturing sector, who came out with some great processes. And one of the Taiichi Ohno was at the heart of things like Six Sigma and Kanban and all that kind of stuff. Came back from Kaizen. That's right, Kaizen. So that was the sort of where he ended up. But one of the processes that he came out with is so simple. We've used it in the second box. He said that you can get to the root of any problem and find its solution by asking the question why 5 times. Now think about this for your business. Why do you do what you do? And see if you can go down this process. For me, some years ago, I was looking back on my life and career, and I noticed that pretty much everything I'd done, I'd taught, or at least everything I'd done well, I'd taught. I just love helping people learn. When I graduated, so why leadership? Well, when I graduated, I graduated as an engineer, and I spent most of my early career managing engineering projects. I discovered that engineers are really, really good at things. They can design things, they can build things. They're even quite good at knocking them down when they're finished with, but they're not very good with people. You can manage things, but you need to lead people. Why? Because I found that's where I can make the biggest difference. I found there was a key differentiator between success and failure had a lot to do with effective leadership skills in leading people well. Why does that make a difference? Well, because you can get the best out of people when you can turn have to into want to. Why? Because then people motivate themselves to be great. So what do? I help people to motivate themselves to be great. Why do you do what you do? We're going to come around the table. A couple of volunteers will be great in just a moment. Why udder wipes? Why do you think udder wipes? Well, udder wipes because before you can milk the goat, you need to clean the udder. Why? Because a clean, healthy udder gives clean, healthy milk. So what? Why? Well, the people who are going to drink the milk want to have clean, healthy milk, so they'll be healthy. Why does that bother me? Because my kids drink this milk, and I want my kids to be healthy. So I'm not selling udder wipes. I'm not selling. I'm selling a healthy family. Do you see where this is going? Who'd like to volunteer just a why on why they do what they do? This is where the room goes quiet. Martin, and then we'll go to Tracy.
What do I do? I like helping people help themselves. And why is that? Because actually, I believe that you only get what you want. Actually, to help other people get what they want in life. And why that? Because I believe you only get what you want by helping other people get what they want. Why is that important? Because life's about fulfillment, really, and people. And why is that important? Well, there's only one life.
Make the best use of it.
You've got to make the most of it. So
yeah.
that's really why I do what I do. It may sound odd for insurance, but that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what drives you. That's the why. You know the what, you know the how. This is the why. It's the golden circle thing with Simon Sinek. Tracy.
Yeah, I mean I do because I like to make a difference for the clients that I'm working with. I get a kick out of positive feedback and helping others. Personally and in their business lives, and also because what I actually do allows me a flexible work-life balance. So.
Fantastic. Just see how this is working. If you dig in and you say why and why, it's easy to get the first step and maybe the second step. To get to the third step and the fourth step really takes some searching, and I'd be surprised if we could get to the fifth step just on the first go here today. But hopefully you'll find that to be helpful. The last thing then, just in the last couple of minutes, is once you've got once you've figured out your target audience, you've got your client information, you've figured out your objectives, you've figured out why you do what you do, then we're going to come to the place where we're going to start to define our target audience. So we're going to start to put something together so that we can remember who our target audience is. What we're looking for here is some people use a picture. Some people does anybody have anything that they use to define their target audience, to show an image of their target audience? Yeah?
So we use Mosaic.
Mosaic?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Well, we profile our client base.
Okay.
Based on existing clients projected.
So that's a product called Mosaic that you use to do your profiling.
So
great.
Experience.
Okay, and so what does that generate at the end of that?
It gives you the clients that you should be looking for based on the product price, what you're offering, the incentives, things that most of the applications like. Quite in depth.
Fantastic. One of the things that I've got is I've got a picture on the wall. My wife decided that this is what she'd like my ideal client to be. We were talking about it, working through this. So I've got a picture. I've also got, goes back to his bag of goodies. Some of these, which some people find helpful. Sometimes it's really helpful to have something just sat on your desk that can show your target audience. Have you ever seen any of these things? It's called a money. You can get them from Amazon, they're ever so cheap. But what you can do with that is you can then customize that to look like your target audience. One that my son produced some years ago was that. So what he's got there, I don't know if you can see it from a distance, but you've got somebody there in a rather smart suit. Can you see what's emerging from the shirt? Superman coming out from inside. He wants to work with people who are super inside and get the super out of the target audience. So it's can be really helpful if you can find some way of documenting, drawing a picture, getting an avatar, having something that whenever you're doing your marketing, you've got your target audience right in front of you. So hopefully you found that helpful defining your target audience. Thank you.
Yeah.